Hey church family, I'm just here in Sodus, running some errands, drinking some coffee. It is week 2 of this COVID-19 isolation. I see it's week 3, I think. Feels like week 1 million. If you're anything like me, this thing is quickly worn off its novelty and it's not fun anymore. So here I am. I'm here in my car, drinking some coffee, thinking about what you guys might be going through. And if you're anything like me, what you're going through right now is a lot of conflict. People that you're close to, people near you. You're having a lot of conflict with your friends and family. And so I wanted to talk about that just a little bit in a short video here. Conflict is, it's inevitable. I think of John the Baptist saying to the Pharisees, "You brood of vipers, who warned you to run from the wrath to come." I think of Jesus driving people out of the temple. I think of Paul saying, "Oh, you foolish Galatians." I think of James saying, "Why are there conflicts and struggles amongst you? Why do you fight?" One thing is for sure, church family, conflict is inevitable. Conflict is this, I'm just going to define it. It's like a struggle between two or more people, where you have these goals that you're both trying to reach, and you look at yourselves and you look at them and you think you're competing for your goals versus their goals. Or maybe you've got something you want and you think they want it too, and there's limited resources and you're battling over that. Attention, time, or you think someone's interfering between you and getting what you want. Anytime those things happen, you think yourself competing with someone else for something, or you think there's limited resources, you end up struggling with that person, you end up in combat with them. And there's some truths that I've noticed. The Bible doesn't say that conflict will never happen. It actually says it will. If you think about it, almost every single one of the epistles that we have in the New Testament arises out of some sort of church conflict or conflict that's going on in a church. Paul talks to Euodia and Syntyche and urges them not to fist fight and brawl in the church parking lot. But there's always things involved in conflict. I want to talk about that. Whenever you have conflict, there's always some level of emotion involved, some level of emotional involvement someone's going to be getting upset. Oftentimes, both parties are upset. Every time you have a conflict, there's always some point at which, in some way, that conflict is communicated somehow to the other party. Some people, it's a direct confrontation, yelling, shouting. Other people, it's more passive-aggressive. Little comments or snippets or things here and there. But either way, it's still a conflict. Whether you express it through small, subtle ways or big, grandiose ways, there's still conflict. And in each conflict, you can always guarantee that there's a difference between the two parties, and that one party is going to feel that difference and be irritated by it. It's going to irritate that person. And then you're going to always guarantee, whenever you have a conflict, that there's going to be behavior, some sort of a way someone is acting that has an effect on the other person, whether it's being mean to them or just not being kind, or whether it is saying things you ought not to say or doing things you ought not to do. And finally, I think every time I see a conflict, or I've seen a conflict, whether it be in church, at home, or in my private life, there's always some sort of pair of people or multiple people where there's opposition coming from one side or the other. Someone standing in someone else's way or opposing something they say as an idea. So just a few initial thoughts for this first video. Number 1, conflict is inevitable. It will happen. There's no way around it in this world. Conflict will happen. You can't avoid it. I want to talk in later videos about some unhealthy strategies for dealing with conflict. And right at the top of that list of unhealthy strategies is avoidance. Some people think that avoiding a conflict gives everyone the idea that we never have conflicts. But in fact, avoiding a conflict is one of the most unhealthy and toxic ways of dealing with conflict. very unhealthy and very unbiblical. Paul never avoided a conflict. Jesus never avoided a conflict when it was necessary. You never see that. That's just an unbiblical idea to think that we can just avoid and pretend like we don't have conflicts. It's inevitable. It's always going to happen. Having conflicts doesn't mean that you're not Christian. What it means is that you're human. The way we deal with conflicts, now that tells you a lot about what you believe and whether or not you truly are a Christian. So we're going to talk about the pattern that God sets out for conflict resolution in these videos. I hope record maybe 5 or 6 videos today, short videos. But another thing that we always need to keep in mind, I'm just thinking about it. Every time I've had a conflict, every time I've seen a conflict, there's always a toll it takes. And there's always a cost involved with conflict. And there's also risks. There's always a risk involved in conflict. When you're confronting someone, there's always a risk involved. You risk losing that relationship. You risk straining it. There's always some sort of risk involved. And, you know, when you deal with conflict in an unhealthy way, it always results in damage done. And oftentimes that damage done is permanent to the relationship. It's strain. So, you know, it's unfortunate, but that's the way life is. But I want you to know, as we look at these videos, I'm going to go through Matthew 18, the process that Jesus himself lays out for going to someone one-on-one. I'm going to go over some of what James says about conflict. But I want you to know about conflict that if you look at the New Testament, all of these books, all of these epistles are born out of conflicts in the church. And each one of these books has blessed the church and has blessed all of us throughout the ages. It's been one of the most useful tools. So what I want you to know is conflict can be useful. What it can do is it can bring us together. Conflict can bring up problems and issues that we need to deal with in our own lives and other people need to deal with in their lives. The key is managing conflict in a way in which we clearly present these differences and we deal with these differences rather than just attacking other people because we're hurt. Conflict can also deepen our relationships with other people and improve them. Conflict can deepen our relationship with God, our trust in Him. You know, it can deepen our understanding of the scriptures, and it can deepen our walk and our prayer life. Conflict can also deepen our relationship with other people. You know, it's not easy being confronted by someone, but if it's done right in love, conflict can cause you to grow closer to that person, to understand that that person wants you to improve as a person. They're not opposed to you. They want you to get better. They want you to grow. The key to dealing with all this in conflict, we're going to talk about, but the key is to have a biblical understanding of what conflict is and why it's there. And that's what I want to post a few videos today talking about that. Maybe I'll help you out as you're in your homes. You're starting to get cabin fever, kind of like I know our family is. Just kind of help you out. Maybe these videos won't, maybe they will. But anyway, church family, I'll probably post 1 or 2 more of these videos talking about conflict and some ways we can deal with it. All right, you have a blessed day. I'll post another video hopefully later today. Bye.